What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of Waynecast. We are on number 75, and it is just me in the studio today. So I want to talk about one thing specifically on this episode, and it's results. Whenever marketing companies put together portfolios or packets or case studies or whatever it is, there always seems to be this idea of impressions or reach or click-through rates or landing page hits that are the center focus of the case study. And sometimes that's perfectly fine. Sometimes that's all the data that you have to go off of, and brand awareness is a good enough deliverable for that particular campaign. However, there are times, and there will come a time, when a particular account needs to be justified with a proper ROI. So this is going to be a little technical, and if you're a small business owner, definitely pay attention to what I'm about to say, because these are all things that you need to know when you're hiring a marketing company to run your campaigns or when you're reviewing marketing reports. We'll have some graphics on the screen as well that'll help guide you along the way. So essentially, when we look at a campaign, there is two figures that you need to be aware of. The first one is impressions. Impressions are simply how many people have seen the ad, or how many times the ad has been seen, more accurately. So for example, if I place an ad for podcasting for Speakeasy, and I say our impressions are 20,000, that means our ad has been seen 20,000 times. The question you then need to answer is, well, how many times has a single person seen the ad? That number is called frequency. So when you have a frequency of 2, that means one person has seen the ad on average of 2 times. And that gets to another result that is important, but we'll add this as a third number you need to be aware of, which is your reach. So when you have your impressions, your frequency, and your reach, you can put a formula together to discover any of those numbers if you're missing one. So it's just a simple math equation. So for example, if you have an impression rate of 20,000 and you have a frequency of 2, your reach would be 10,000, meaning 10,000 individuals saw your ad. So if you have an ad that blasts out and 10,000 people see it, and you have a frequency of 5, that means you have an impression of 50,000. So your ad has been seen 50,000 times. Your frequency is 5, therefore your reach is 10,000. So no matter which way you spin it, impression, frequency, and reach always need to be considered, and I'll tell you why. So a while back when I was working for this pain management clinic, they had, I was a consultant for them, and they had a radio station that came in for geofencing and said, hey, we can get you 1 million impressions within this zip code. And the math just didn't make sense. I was like, 1 million impressions, like that means someone is going to need to see the ad at least 20 times in order for you to actually capture all the people in this zip code based on the population. So I asked the gentleman, I said, okay, well, what is your frequency? And he didn't know. He just knew that they could get up to 1 million impressions for an ad. Now, if you don't know what your reach or your frequency is going to be on a particular campaign, or what your targets at least are, you run the risk of doing two things. One, you're going to waste a lot of money potentially on this campaign. And two, you're going to piss off a lot of people by blowing them up with 10, 15, 20 ads of the same company, so much so that they're going to do the right click or the 3-button click on Facebook, and they're going to click hide ad or unfollow or block company. So now you have people that not only are not going to buy anything from you right now, they are now never going to see anything from you ever again, because you've saturated social media so much with that particular ad. So paying attention to impressions, frequency, and reach is super important, because one, you want to make sure people see the ad enough times to where they get a sense of who you are and what you do, but not too many times to where they are now tired of seeing you. Now I can get into how we measure what is the right number of that and what's too much. I think that's probably for another episode. What I really want to talk about today is really getting into the ROI. So we have what we call these signature clients that we follow literally every piece of their business. We follow the consulting, we follow their financials, we follow their marketing budget, their referrals, basically everything that the business does, we're involved with on an operational perspective. Now, these are our larger clients that are smaller in scope. We either don't need to follow them from a consulting perspective, or the work that they're doing or the work that we are doing for them is generating enough ROI that they're capturing on their back end and then reporting back to us. But there are clients that we actually see literally every piece of business that they do. And once a year, I publish case studies on these clients because I think it's super important to analyze the data and see how well we're performing. So I thought it would be good for us to sit down and go through one of these case studies. So the first thing I want to do is go to my phone and go to waynemedia.com, go to the social media page, and you will see one of our full service marketing case studies on that page. So I'm just reading. You can follow along online if you'd like. We'll make sure we include this link in the show notes so you can check it out. And this is one of the 2020 case studies that we did. So this is pandemic figures. And I write up kind of a summary of what we did. I talk about actual numbers in terms of budget and return. So it starts off by saying in 2020, our team achieved a return on investment of 10.8 to 1 for one of our local clients. This is a total return on investment, including ad spend. So I'll stop right there. There's typically two types of ROI that people talk about. One makes people seem awesome. It's called ROAS, return on ad spend. So basically, if you spend $100 on Facebook and you make $500, you would have a 5-to-1 ROI, right? What they don't calculate, however, is, well, how much did you pay for the management of that ad, for the copy, for the creative, everything that went into making that ad possible? How much did you pay for that? That is called the total ROI. So I always look at numbers from a total ROI perspective because ROAS for me is only useful if I'm already managing the account and I want to know how much more ad dollars I can spend to get a better return. So ROAS really is for the marketing company. It's not really for public consumption because it doesn't tell the full story. Total ROI, however, does. So we were able to achieve a 10.8 to 1 ROI. Now, it should be noted that this, while great, isn't going to happen for every client. A few things before we get into how we accomplished this. 1, this happened during COVID calendar year 2020. 2, this client is in the trades, specifically home remodeling within the greater Louisville area. 3, the client had buy-in to our process. And I say more on this shortly. Methodology. Here's the backstory. In 2019, we onboarded this client for a website and a simple social media content strategy. As their return grew, they invested, and as we began new services, they became what we call a signature client, meaning they've utilized our top tier package that includes social media, advertising on Facebook and Google and Instagram, videography, podcasting within our studio, and website management. A package like this typically runs between $3,000 and $4,000. Now that we're 2 years after this, we're in the $4,000 to $5,000 range after we've added more services and leveled up our pricing appropriately. So that may sound like a lot, but when you look at it in terms of a full-time employee, it's less than the cost of a full-time employee, but you're getting way more. And this has been the whole sales hook for Wayne Media, which is we want you to have website, video, social media, and even podcasting for less than what you would pay a full-time person. And we've put these numbers out there before. People might spend on the actual management side of the house $48,000 to $60,000 per year. When they hire a full-time marketing associate, they're paying for software, taxes, benefits, obviously that salary, and it's more than what you would get than if you were to go to Wayne Media and actually get a full team, because a full team for us is about 4 of our people servicing your company in different areas. And actually write on the next page that breakdown so you can read all of that there. So in 2020, our client spent $53,000 on marketing services split between management, which is our fee, and advertising, which for them was Facebook and Google. The result? They earned $575,000 in sales directly related to our marketing efforts, not referrals, not word of mouth, but direct digital marketing sales that were attributed to our campaigns. If you factor in sales that were closed as a result of our marketing efforts in terms of credibility, the figures were even higher. And by higher, I mean double. So if you factor in the work that we did that helped referral clients make a decision to go with them, that number is even higher, but we omitted those from our case study. So we utilize videos, social media content, and advertising on Facebook and Google to place precisely targeted ads towards homeowners that are likely or in need of a home remodel. So throughout the year, we refreshed videos, updated ads based on seasons, need, and new data, and the results were clear when the dust settled. So this only works if certain elements are in place. And this is really important because this is why we talk about good clients and bad clients, because bad clients don't want to communicate. They don't want to talk about sales figures and ROI because they think they're protecting some great orb that they can't let out of the bag for fear that it's going to ruin everything. But the more data that you share with your marketing company, the better decisions they can make so long as you trust them. So the client needs to help in tracking sales. Google and Facebook does not track sales for service-based products like remodeling or roofing or siding or whatever it is. There's no e-commerce tool that can track a remodel purchase because it's a very in-depth on-site sales meeting that takes place that is apart from the website. So because of that, we need to work with the client so we can have reliable data that will give us the origin of sale and what actually converted. 2, exceptional communication. We meet with our clients formally at least once per month, and that doesn't include content review, video services, and just hanging out because we only work locally with our clients. So communication needs to be important, and we need to ensure that we have great lines of communications to make changes efficiently, and again, to keep tracking data. So it's a 3-page case study. You can see all of the figures in there, but I did this for a few reasons. One, I was really tired of marketing companies saying hey, we got 20,000 impressions and we got 200 website clicks. 10 website clicks that result in 2 sales is much better than 20,000 website clicks that result in no sales, right? There needs to be some traction gained, and there needs to be some proof that the marketing efforts that you're spending money on are actually working. And this can present itself in multiple ways. I'm not saying there needs to be a direct ROI always, because sometimes brand awareness, credibility checks, making sure that your referral clients that are coming in are going into a really nice system, they feel comfortable, it matches the DNA of the company when they get there in terms of the digital matching the brick and mortar. All of that stuff is really important, and it's missed. But if we're only talking about impressions and we're not talking about even reach or frequency, and we're not talking about actual financials, I doubt seriously if it's overly effective. So when you're looking for marketing companies, one, I always encourage local the better. So if you can get a local marketing company that you can actually walk in their door and chat with them, that's great. 2, ensure that they understand analytics deeply. Ask to see some of their work. I had a guy come in recently, and he was a referral from a current client, and it seemed like a home run. But we get into the middle of the meeting, and he's like, hey, can I see your guys' Google ads, just like one of your campaigns that you're comfortable showing me? And we have some of those. We even have our own that we can show people. He's like, I just want to see the structure of them to see if it's an express ad, which is just kind of like Google picks all of the data, or if it's an actual pro style ad that you pick the keywords, you have the targets, the tracking, all that stuff in there. So I showed him our ads, walked him through all of our architecture, how we lay out Google ads and what our process is. And he's like, no, that's great. I love that. But if he wouldn't have asked the question, he wouldn't have known how we structure Google ads and if we do it the express way or the actual professional way. So ask those questions. And that's largely my job on this particular podcast, is to make sure that businesses know the right questions to ask. And if you're going into a meeting just assuming that the marketing company that you're working with has it on lock, you're running the risk of wasting a lot of money and time. And I just want to make sure people have all of the right things that they need to make proper decisions when it comes to marketing, because there's a lot of great things that you can do, but you need to make sure that they're quantifiable, that you can justify why you're doing them. So whenever I talk on marketing, I like to talk more so about the things that you should not do, because when it gets to a client, everyone is going to be different. From a strategy perspective, my roofing strategy is not the same as my remodeling strategy, even though they're both in the trades. My real estate strategy isn't the same as my mortgage strategy, even though they're both in that real estate umbrella. It needs to be custom. So it's much better to talk about landmines to avoid stepping on than saying, hey, everybody should use Google My Business, because everybody shouldn't use Google My Business. If you're e-com, Google My Business is going to do very little for you. If you're local, it's going to be super tremendous. So it needs to be custom, and that's it. And you need to make sure you're comfortable before you move forward with the marketing company that you have. So ask for case studies, ask for data, Ask to see existing campaigns, existing work. And if you're a new marketing company, you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't have any of that, I just started, make some. Do some test campaigns for yourself, post the data results, and then explain in that first meeting saying, hey, we are newer, but we have had results. We do have a structure in place. Here's what we're willing to do if you're willing to take the leap with us. That's what we had to do. I didn't walk into my first marketing meeting and say, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I said, listen, we are just starting doing this. This is what we can do. This is what I'm super comfortable with doing. And then as we grow, we will offer you more services as we're comfortable with actually putting them into production. And that's what we did. We had really small accounts that were under $1,000 a month. We grew really slowly. And then as time went on, we started landing $4,000 to $5,000 a month accounts because people trusted us more because we had more data, more people, more structures. And that is how you grow. You grow honestly. You grow true to where you're actually at. Don't make things sound better than what they are. The data is the data. And unfortunately, there's this quote that I hear all the time that I really like. But like, if you torture the data long enough, you can make it say and do whatever you want. So people have a ways of twisting data into making things sound better than it really is. But just stick with the actual facts. People are going to like you for being honest more than they are for whatever facade or mask you're going to put on to try and convince them to do something. So whether you're a company prospecting marketing companies or you're a marketing company prospecting new clients, just make sure that you're always upfront with what your expectations are. That's it. That's episode 75. Appreciate y'all listening. Catch you on the next one. Take care.